Coming up on This Week in Radio Tech, we're taking a trip down south. Yeah, over the border, we're going to Mexico City to talk to Cuauhtémoc Pereda. He's in charge of a bunch of engineers and a bunch of radio stations in Mexico. Let's see how they're doing through this COVID-19 lockdown. Coming up next on TWiRT. This Week in Radio Tech is brought to you by Broadcasters General Store with outstanding service, savings, and support. Online at bgs.cc. By Angry Audio. Audio problems disappear when you get angry at angryaudio.com. By Nautel, keeping you connected with your community with support and webinars. Online at nautel.com/webinars. And by Max Connect Wireless, prioritized high-speed internet service designed for transmitter sites and remote broadcasts. Hey, welcome into This Week in Radio Tech, the show where we're talking about everything from the microphone to the light bulb at the top of the tower. And I have some news about that, by the way. That light bulb at the top of the tower. You know, for years, I've been telling you on this show that I have one of those big 300 millimeter code beacons, right? With the two great big bulbs in it. But I've got a really old one that has its clear glass on the outside and the red lens on the inside. And it's so old, the wiring is just rotting. It's in terrible shape. And I've been promising for years that I would finish, refurbing it and putting it together and at least putting some LED bulbs in it. And then setting it back over here on the set so I can have a red beacon light. And yeah, someday I'll do that. But I'm also getting a newer red beacon light. Hope to pick that up this weekend and bring it to you and maybe even have it here for you on the show next week. If I can. Yeah, I can't run the big bulbs in it. That's just too bright. We'll see if we can have it. So that way I can finally say from the microphone to the light bulb at the top of the tower, and it'll be accurate. And that'll be a big burden, a big heavy burden off my shoulders. So again, I'm Kirk Harnack. I'm the host of the show, This Week in Radio Tech. If it's your first time here, welcome in. We've got quite a good show for you today because of our guest. He's actually from Mexico City. We'll be introducing him in just a minute. Chris Tobin is not able to be with us today, so I'll be running this thing solo. I'll be winging it today solo because Chris can't be in the show today. He should be here next week. Hey, I want to remind you that our friends at Nautel, the transmitter company, Nautel is continuing with their series of webinars all through June, and it's the Transmission Talk Tuesday. It's actually not a webinar. I should say it's a roundtable. So this coming Tuesday, June 23rd at 12 noon Eastern Time, the discussion is going to be about site monitoring. And they invite your input and questions because it is a roundtable. Now, more and more, they're looking for ways to do things from the comfort of home, whether it's due to the global pandemic or simply because it's easier to keep tab on things from the living room sofa whenever that may be an option. So in this session coming up this Tuesday, June 23rd, Jeff Welton will talk about site monitoring, setting up your home office or any location as your network operations center, your NOC, and various methods for monitoring and transporting monitored signals securely. Now, the guests on the show are going to be Josh Bone. Josh has been doing a lot of work in remote controls and automations, and also Jeremy Preece from K-Love EMF. You know K-Love. We've got a surprise coming up for you in a few weeks from K-Love as well, a live remote. So check that out. Here's how you register. Just go to nautel.com, Nautel, nautel.com/webinars. Nautel.com/webinars. Register for the Transmission Talk Tuesday. And again, that roundtable format, it's a lot of fun and it's great. All right. I'm sitting in my usual office here. This is the Telos Alliance studio in Nashville, Tennessee. And I appreciate, big tip of the hat to my friends and bosses and people I work with at the Telos Alliance for giving me a little bit of time off late on Thursday afternoon to do the show and for helping me outfit the studio with some Telos gear. And look at all these lights. Oh my gosh. It's just a color menagerie. Okay, so our guest today, time to bring him in. And he's from Mexico City. His name is Cuauhtémoc. Last name is Pereda. But we're going to call him Welcome in. How you doing?
Hello. Thanks for the welcome. That you actually said it almost perfectly. The name.
Almost.
Quite right. Yeah. That was pretty good.
So you've got to tell me something about your name. Is like it's got 100 letters in it, and it takes a long time to type it. You could use your name as a password. It's a great password.
I actually always use it as a password.
Don't say don't say that. So what is this naming Cuauhtémoc, and then there's an accent or accent over the e.
Yeah, it's an
Cuauhtémoc.
accent on the E. So
Yeah.
as I was telling you before, it's an Aztec name. It's the name of the last Aztec emperor who was tortured and killed by the Spaniards because he wouldn't tell them where the Aztec gold was, which it's believed to have never existed actually. So he was the last Aztec emperor, and it also has a significant a meaning. So the meaning is descending eagle. So Cuauhtémoc stands for descending eagle in Aztec or Nahuatl. It's the dialect's name. Yeah.
I'll get the accent right. Cuauhtémoc. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. No, that
Okay.
was that. Now that was perfect. Yeah, great.
Now, but your friends call you what?
Quao, quao.
Quao. All right.
Yeah.
Quao. I'm gonna call you. I'm considered. We're friends now, right?
All right. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Okay.
No,
I'm gonna call you
even
Quao.
though when I always go to the States, I have such a hard time explaining like my name situation, and now so Quao is the official nickname, and that's how everybody calls me here in Mexico, in Europe, in the US, everywhere. So Quao works just fine.
All right, awesome. So, now, Quao, you've got a rather responsible position at your radio stations. We're going to get into a discussion about some of the techniques and equipment that you're using to operate during this time of COVID in Mexico City. But let's kind of set the stage a little bit. First of all, Mexico City is a city of like about 20 million people. So it's roughly the population of New York, but it's squeezed much smaller than the New York metro area. So you've got a very high persons per square mile in Mexico City, right?
Yeah, I believe till some years ago, I think it still is the most densely populated city in the world. It's about 22 million, and I always like to describe it to the people in the US like a messy and chaotic New York City, and like people go crazy when I tell them that because they're like, "Wow, New York City is chaotic as it is," but no, clearly you haven't seen Mexico City. So it's this huge urban stain, like all filled with buildings everywhere, just
Yeah.
streets everywhere, cars everywhere, a lot of pollution, and so messy infrastructure. It's like it's even funny, but it's a monster of a city,
Well, that's a good way to say it's a monster of a city. I've been to Mexico City once, maybe twice, in my position when I was the international sales director at Telos, at the Telos Alliance, and I got to speak to a group of engineers there. I spoke in English, and it was translated, one phrase at a time, and it was a wonderful experience there. I got to go to some fantastic restaurants, and I did notice the city has many messy parts, but also many beautiful parts of the city. So it's a huge city. The thing I remember most, though, was when we were flying in. When you're flying in an airplane, you like you're flying to Chicago, right? Chicago's a pretty big city. You're flying in, and you see the countryside and the plains and the farms, and then you see the city for a few minutes, and then you land, right?
Exactly.
Mexico City. You fly and you see the city, and then you see more city and more city and more city and more
You never
city.
stop seeing the city.
You never stop seeing city, and then about a half hour later, you land. It's crazy how huge it is.
Yeah, that's what I like to say, messy. And when you land like right in the middle of the city. It's not like it's not like this, like as you say, where the airport is a little bit far from the city, and like half an hour to get into the city and start seeing buildings. No, you just get out of the airport, you see buildings, you start seeing a lot of traffic, and you are right there in the city. I mean, like downtown is actually like, what would you say, 15, 20 minutes away, no traffic from the airport. And well, when you got the traffic jams, you can do like half an hour and a half or 2 hours, but it's so right there,
We're going to be talking about radio and radio engineering. When I was there, I had a radio with me. I listened to some of the stations. Tell me a little bit about radio stations in Mexico City. I'm guessing there are a lot of FM radio stations there. Tell me about the situation.
You got almost almost like 40 FM radio stations in Mexico City, and exactly the same number of AM stations in Mexico City. So it's really, really, really saturated band over there. And for us, for me in particular, that we have only two AM stations there in Mexico City. It's a huge, how to say, a very great disadvantage you have there being in the AM band, because as I was telling you before, it's having such a mess of a city, and all this infrastructure there, all these, like every other minute, So you just step in your car, tune in the radio. You have to be listening in FM radio if you want to have a good sound. Look, you turn to AM band, you're gonna lose the signal all the way, every time, and it's really that one is you just have the disadvantage from the beginning there, having AM versus FM over there. And then the other thing is the places where the antennas or the transmitters have to be situated are also hills on the outside of the city, and have to be really tall antenna to cover, to be able to cover the city.
Right. I remember seeing some rings of hills and ridges around the city. Also, I remember when I was there, and this applies, I think, in some other Latin American countries, is in the United States, we have, for FM, we have a limitation on the modulation of 100%, and that's defined with 75 kilohertz of deviation from the carrier, 100%. But in Mexico City, it seems as though this is not the maximum. This is actually the minimum. You must always do 100% or more. Is that right?
Exactly. Even though it's not the best thing for the transmitters and the equipment, but here everybody goes over 100%. They mostly operate between 100 and 120%, and most of the radio stations are doing 110, 120 even. We like to be in the 100% area, but you sometimes have to overmodulate to be able to compete, And we have the regulation as well to not go over the 100%, but you sometimes have to do it because the market demands it,
If everybody is speeding, who is the police going to stop? Because they can't stop everybody. So, yeah.
Exactly.
So, hey, so we're going to take a quick break for a sponsor, and when we come back, we're going to jump right into this conversation about how your operations at your stations have been during this COVID period. Some of the technical things you've been trying to do, and when I've been in Mexico and other Latin countries, radio is really a passionate thing. I mean, there's just so much, there's good talk, so much passion, callers calling in. I mean, it's really exciting radio with a lot of interaction. So we're going to be getting to that here in just a minute. This Week in Radio Tech is brought to you by my friends over at Angry Audio. Usually I save this part for last, but I'm going to tell you first. You can get one of these absolutely free. This is a Cat 5e cable that is shielded. It's got the shielded RJ45 connectors on it. It comes in a bag that has a listing on it reminding you of what the pinouts are, the cable assignments are, the wire assignments for the Studio Hub standard. And you can get one of these free for every one of these that you buy. This is the famous adapter that Studio Hub came up with years ago, and they're still being made now. Angry Audio bought Studio Hub and is still making these wonderful adapters in the same factories by the same people on the same machines, same high quality as we've come to expect from Studio Hub. So every one of these you order, ask. You got to ask for it. It won't come automatically. Ask for your free cable. It's absolutely free, and check it out. Now, what we really need to talk about, though, is this guy right here. This is the Bluetooth gadget from Angry Audio, the Bluetooth audio gadget. This is perfect for your home studio. This is perfect for your seldom used studio. If you need a telephone hybrid, you don't have to run a POTS line into that studio anymore. You can just use your cell phone and just pair your cell phone up with the Bluetooth that's in here, And let your cell phone be your telephone hybrid. It works great. You can also use this to play back high quality audio from your cell phone. When you connect your cell phone to this in one way, either play to it or record from it, you get the high quality mode. And so if you've got a whole list of songs on your cell phone, let's say you have some unusual songs or songs that you can't seem to get into the radio station, or you don't have access to load up the station automation. Maybe you're running a college station or a community station or an LPFM. You can use the Bluetooth audio gadget to pair up with your phone and get those songs on the air sounding really, really good. The audio gadget has balanced left and right audio outputs. It has an AES analog, it has AES digital output, I should say, and an analog input as well. Built-in power supply plugged into 110 volts, and it's easy peasy to pair with your phone. It's got a pairing switch right there on the front. So check that out from Angry Audio. You go to their website, you're going to like what you see. Don't get mad, get angry. GetAngryAudio.com and check out their whole line of gadgets and gizmos and stuff that make your life a whole lot better in the studio. Thanks a lot, Angry Audio, for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech. And you engineers, you go there, check it out. My friend Mike Dosh runs that place, and he's a broadcaster from a few years back. He knows what he's doing. All right, we're talking with Cuauhtémoc Pereda from Mexico City, and welcome in. Glad you're here. Let's jump right into the situation. First of all, how many radio stations are in your cluster there that you take care of?
Well, I have different clusters of stations. For example, the brand that I direct, which is called @FM, which translates literally to ad FM. You know, the ad symbol in the emails, ad FM. That's the brand name. So we got 18 stations right there in 18 different cities. One of them is one of the AMs here in Mexico City. The other 17 are FM radios in 17 other cities in the country.
Wow!
And then for the other part that I supervise the engineering department, we have 30 radio stations. Some of them are included in the other clusters, but in the other cluster, the one I just described to you, but most of them are different radio stations, which are for example, we have a city in the coast where we have 7 of them, and you go up north to northern Mexico, and we have 4 in one city, 3 in another city. So it's 10 different cities there, which I supervise the engineering part.
Got you. Okay. Now, here in the U.S., we've been under in some places, really serious lockdowns. I mean, don't go anywhere unless it's, for emergency services, to go to the doctor, or if you have to go out to the grocery store to get food or toilet paper, if you can find it. What's been your situation there with people being able to come to work or not come to work?
Well, the situation here in Mexico was at the beginning was really loosely based because the government wasn't taking it very seriously, as you may already know, because of the news. We have been all over the world because our government was like really neglected about this whole pandemic. And then it started to get serious all over the world, started to get serious here. So we were forced into the lockdown. And the lockdown worked almost, it was supposed to be forcefully in all over the country, but the people had to work, and here having a lot of informal economy, you just can't control those people and not allowing them to go to work because they are earning their day-to-day life. So, and for us in the radio, because we're a federal communication media, we couldn't stop working either. So what we did was narrow the period that the operators were in the studios and the people in the studios, and we narrowed it down. We fractured their I forgot the word, but the time they go to work too. the one of the most important problems here we had is that we have the syndicate of radio workers, of broadcasting workers, the union, which made the really difficult for us to not allow the people to go to work as normal, because they had to come to comply with their wages and their salaries, which we are keeping up to, but we just were telling them that no, you can't go into the studio because we don't want studios to crowd it, and we can control what's going on in the studio remotely, so we didn't need the people actually work. They was telling us that go to work, so that was kind of the first complication we're meeting, and we're still like negotiating with them, like when but they have to adapt, no, to the new thing we're living here, and the new schedules that we were giving them.
Yeah. So do you have people then working from home, or are they simply staggering schedules in studios and cleaning up after themselves?
Exactly. No, we're doing both. We're having people from home that, like, the people who work for us and are not in the union. Some of them are working from home. They're transmitting from home, and the union people, they're staggering their schedules and going one by one, and half day, not the full day, and then most of the day we are operating remotely. We just program all the all the all the programming, all the schedule for one day in radio, and then that's it. Unfortunately for us, we already had almost, I want to say all of them, but maybe a couple are not already, but all of them audio over IP with the Telus Alliance equipment that we've been using for the last, almost 10 years now. So we got the Axia consoles, and we got the software, so we can do that. We can manage all that remotely, and we can just program what we're going to broadcast for a day or for the whole week, from advance.
Okay, so I thought I heard our friend Danilo mention about you have some Axia gear, you have some audio over IP, and this has been a common thread with other engineers. If your station already has some audio over IP equipment, and of course my employer makes that with the Axia gear, then you have a much better experience with remote controlling your equipment, because it's just IP. There's a lot of common control language and a common infrastructure for these things. Okay.
Yeah, for sure. So, like, it's been really simple, and I think right now it's when you get the most advantage of these new equipments, of these new technologies, when you realize, like, oh man, we're in this huge mess because of the pandemic. Well, there's no problem. We just control it remotely. We program what we have to broadcast, what our clients are requiring, what our programs are scheduled, and we do it like right on time, just a few clicks,
So do you you have radio stations in lots of different markets in Mexico? I think you mentioned what you have 45, 50 radio stations altogether?
Yeah. No, well, actually, the ones that I have to be taking care of, approximately 40. Yeah.
Okay. So, do you is there some talent that is doing work for stations that are far, far away from where they live? Like, not just the local station that they maybe work at usually, but are they also doing work remotely far away, or mostly just doing for the station that's close to them?
Well, yeah, for example, like our team of system engineers and broadcasting engineers they mostly live here in Mexico City, and they do like their checkups and they're monitoring the equipments constantly remote, because also most of our transmitters are now either NVs or GVs, So we can do that over IP as well. So they're on the network. We're not having a lot of trouble with that as well. And one of we are required, by the law, as I was saying beforehand, to keep operating at 100%. So we can't just stop our transmission, or our, say maybe clients aren't buying publicity now, so we just shut one of the stations off. We can't do that, and we have to keep, and we are having the, to still pay the union workers and our own workers. So it's been really tough on that part to keep up with, because we have 100% of our expenses, and the utility is almost none, because actually there's no utility, because the income just cut to almost zero. Publicity stopped, even though a lot of people, more than ever, I think, it's listening to radio, and we're having like the whole audience to ourselves or to other our radio stations, because we have them at home. They're listening to the radio all day, but there's, the clients aren't getting these, or aren't able to keep up with this, and still buy publicity, because they're having income, because there's no consumption.
Yeah, that's you're right. I was just thinking, what would if I ran a tire store? What would I advertise? Hey, we know you're not driving now, but when you get back on the road, you're going to wear your tires out, and when you wear your tires out, you're going to need, Cuau's tire store. So.
Exactly, just like that, But and also we have this social responsibility to be issuing and broadcasting all these government advertisements of stay at home, now do these, the new campaign, the new lights that our government came up with. This the name of the campaign is the street light, because we're going from green to yellow, and then yellow to orange, and then orange to red, depending on the level of cautiousness we have to do, and the level of lockdown there has to be because of the pandemic. So we have to be broadcasting all that, and we have to be entertaining also the people, because people, as I was mentioning, Mexico City, you have this monster of a city, but you go out from Mexico City and you have a whole different panorama on the rest of Mexico as a country. You have a few other cities that are really developed and really big. I can count 10 of them, but the rest of them are really, 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 really underdeveloped compared to Mexico City. I mean, the way of life is just really different. Infrastructure levels are way below, like in how Mexico City. So people outside of Mexico City depend a lot on radio and TV and conventional medias to get their day-to-day life. And so we have been coming up with different projects. We have been working with artists to do this like unplugged live video streams, and then we also broadcasted them through air on the antenna. Also, that is also being permitted because of the audio over IP infrastructure that we have been working with for the last years. So we've been taking advantage of all the investment we did on this costly equipments, because they cost a lot of money, and we've been using them, like I could say, like 80% or 100% of what they're capable to do now, in contrast to other times where we got regular times, not pandemic times, where maybe the operators or the union people that don't know how to use them were just not taking advantage of all this technology. So I think in that operational part, we've been seeing a benefit from all this, because we're having to be obligated to keep up with the hard times.
So you mentioned there about video streaming. Tell me about your audio streaming, and do you have a lot of listeners to your audio streams in Mexico?
Well, that part is a little. It's kind of complicated because of what I told you about the access to this video streaming. You either have to have a good internet at home, or you do your mobile plans, which are most of, I think, 70 or 80% of the population here in Mexico use a prepaid mobile plan. So the data ends up being really expensive. You have the data some package, WhatsApp, or I don't know, maybe Twitter for images or for the stream, not for like video streaming now. So
Gotcha.
When you do the video streaming, like for example, here in Mexico City, you get that I think it's the city with most Spotify users in the world. Because of the huge that's because of the huge population we got, and because we have a better infrastructure here than in the rest of the of Mexico as a country. And for example, when we do the video streams and we do the streaming thing here in Mexico City, we get the most of our listeners, the most of our viewers are from within Mexico City or the urban area around it. So that's how we take advantage of our AM stations here, because we do a lot of fusion between the contents. A lot of video media, a lot of social media streamings combined to radio. So we try to do the mixed contents. We do the interviews. We do the thing with the activities with the artists. We give up things, and we just launched a new national morning show, which we are actually doing with 4 conductors, and each of them are right now from their home. So each of them in their house, and we connect them during 3 hours every morning, and we broadcast that in 20 stations nationwide. So that's another thing we're doing right now with the technologies that are allowing us to do that. We just gave them a good Wi-Fi at home, a good set of earphones, and ready to go.
So I want to turn our attention in just a few minutes to the people at home. What kind of equipment are they having at home? Is their internet bandwidth good enough to broadcast from home and participate? And do you need somebody at the studio to do the mixing? So we'll get to that in just a minute. Our show This Week in Radio Tech. Today we're talking with Cuauhtémoc Pereda. He is he's an engineer with a big group in Mexico City, and they have stations over a good part of Mexico, so 45, 50 stations or so, some AM, some FM stations, and we're finding out about how they're coping with working and just getting along through these COVID restrictions in Mexico City. I've been there. Beautiful some places, not so beautiful other. It's a hot mess in some places, you might say. This Week in Radio Tech, I'm Kirk Harnack, and our show is brought to you in part by our friends at Broadcasters General Store. And they are the place to get yourself anything from Innovonics. Let's check out the Innovonics Aaron 655.
The Aaron 655 is the latest addition to the Innovonics family of rebroadcast receivers, designed specifically for FM broadcast translators, also referred to as relay transmitters. The Aaron 655 is unique as an uncompromising DSP-based HD radio and FM receiver combined with a powerful 3-band audio processor and dynamic RDS encoder. IP connectivity adds streaming capabilities, and a web browser interface gives you total remote control of the unit from any PC or mobile device. The Aaron 655 gives you maximum flexibility for program sources. Select program audio from analog FM, digital channels HD1 through 8, streaming sources, and analog or AES digital line inputs, all with assignable failover audio backup. The internal RDS encoder allows you to customize your RDS messaging. You can use incoming off-air RDS data, convert HD radio pad data to RDS, convert streamed metadata to RDS, or receive IP telnet data. Comprehensive audio processing includes gated and windowed AGC, a unique syllabic leveler, 3 bands of compression, and both wideband and independent HF limiting. Easy setup is achieved by using 10 factory presets and 10 customizable presets. The processor also supports day parting, allowing automatic preset changes to follow different programming formats throughout your broadcast day. The front panel has an OLED display and jog wheel with intuitive menus for easy setup, advanced control, and editing for all operating parameters. The Aaron 655 dynamic web interface gives you total remote control of the unit from any PC or mobile device. A comprehensive set of menus includes a quick overview of now playing info, input-output control, processor options, RDS encoder, alarms and notifications, SNMP settings, and much more. You can also listen to the live audio broadcast streamed through the web interface.
Got to check out this Inovonics Aaron 655, and you can do so at the Inovonics website. It's just awesome what they let you do there. You can test out any of their equipment that has a web GUI on it, which is most of it. You can check that out right there online, do your own demo for yourself at the Inovonics website. Check that out, and you can get it, of course, from Broadcaster General Store. BGS is a great place to go to buy anything that you need for broadcast, even for television broadcast. You're setting up a television studio in your radio station, bgs.cc is a great place to go. Hey, there's a bunch of Axia gear right there. Look at that. And you can give them a call, too. They answer the phone. They talk to you, and very politely and friendly, too, at 352-622-7700, 352-622-7700 for Broadcasters General Store and bgs.cc. Thanks a lot, BGS and Inovonics, for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech. You know, an Inovonics product is the very first piece of broadcast gear I ever purchased when I was managing a little AM radio station back in 1980 or maybe 1981. I bought their MAP 2 AM audio processor, and holy cow, was it fantastic, and they're still around. So that's terrific. All right, it's Kirk Harnack, and we're talking with Cuauhtémoc Pereda at I'm sorry, I haven't made a note of the name of the broadcast group that you're with. I'm sorry. Can you spell that out for me? What's the
company? I'm going to tell you the two companies that I work for. So the first one is the one I was telling you, the first cluster of stations, which is @FM.
Okay, with the @ symbol. Yeah, @ symbol. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And then we have the other that's called Radio Resultados, which translates to radio results.
Okay. I'll look those up on the interwebs after the show. All right. And what is you seem to do a number of things there because you're very aware of the programming, dealing with the unions, overseeing engineering management. What's your title there?
Well, my title would be a managing director. So I
gotcha.
kind of oversee like all of the aspects, and then a chief engineer for some of the for a section of stations as well. So I kind of I'm running all over the place. No, I started first back when I was 20 years old. I started doing the programming, the music programming for the brand of stations that I now I'm in charge of. And I actually, I'm still doing that because it has been such a good product that I don't want to like, I don't want to see it turn into a bad product. So I even still do the part of that of the music programming, which I actually enjoy.
Well, if you want a job done right, you've got to do it yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
So you mentioned that you have a lot of Axia equipment. So you've got audio over IP networks. Do you have this at all your stations, or just the ones in Mexico City, or what?
No, we do have them in almost all of our stations. I like to say about 80% of them. We have this the Axia consoles, and then we have the Telos hybrids for telephone calls, and then we have some Inovonics processors, actually. I have a couple of David Force over there. And we kind of use we have there's a great mixture of brands and equipments throughout all these number of radio stations, because some of them inherit some equipment from others, and then we purchase some new things for other stations, and equipments go round and round all over the country because like we have maybe two processors here, and we just bought a new one, so in another city they're in the requirement because of a processors, because it's having some faulty issues, so we send another one there. So we're really, but what I would like to say that most of our equipment, it is from the Telos Alliance family, and we've been really um, compliance with that. And I mean the they work really
So thinking about,
it's pretty good.
we were talking about some of your people working from home, and so when someone works from home, what is a typical setup? What kind of microphone are they using? Headphones, laptop? Maybe they have a codec, remote control into the station to see maybe the automation system. What typically are they having at their home?
What we're doing, for example, for this new morning show that I was telling you about, it's quite a connection here, because we're doing the morning show from a city in the south of Mexico City, which is called Cuernavaca. My cousin is running the show from there. So the conductors of the program, they live there. So they do the link to the studio we have there in Cuernavaca. So we have a guy operating there, and then from there we will use a Comrex codec link to here in Mexico City, which Mexico City, we use it as well as a hub for all the stations we have all over Mexico, all over the country. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
So we do the link first from the homes of our guys. They do the link to the studio there in Cuernavaca, and from the studio in Cuernavaca, we link to Mexico City, and then all of the other stations that are broadcasting that show link up to Mexico City.
Are you guys doing any?
Mostly of them.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Via Comrex codec. That's the most popular equipment we have here in the company, the Comrex.
How about HD radio? Are you guys doing any of the HD radio?
Yeah, HD radio. It's becoming a kind of a thing here in Mexico, because new laws for new permits, for new concessions, for radio concessions, came with this new requirement that the stations had to be in the HD format in order to have the concession. So they give you a period of time for you to be able to make it an HD station. For me, actually, we just did the first HD radio station on the company in Puebla. Puebla is the fourth or fifth largest city in Mexico. It's to the east. It's a little bit eastern to Mexico City, and we have an HD radio station there. We used Nautel equipment there. I purchased a multicast there in order to be able to broadcast in 4 different channels, which we are currently using only 3 of them. But really nice piece of equipment. Pretty expensive, but it's really worth it. And the thing here, the problem with the HD radio here in Mexico is the people that are actually going to hear you or listen to you in HD. The receivers available in the population are really scarce. So in these moments, it's not profitable for the companies to invest and to do all the HD thing, and not having an audience that is going to exploit that new quality of sound you're getting there.
Right.
Because laws are still behind with the thing. For example, in the cars, I think the point we're in there is that it's just an ISO recommendation that the new cars have to come with the HD radio, but it's not a requirement yet. So not all the new cars are coming up with the HD radio, and not for say the home radios that people have. Of course, they're not HD radios, and then the HD radios are of course more expensive. So there's that we have a big problem there, because we are now required to make new stations. We acquire, or another group acquires into HD, and we're not we're not getting any profit, or we're not seeing any benefit of doing the HD thing, and it's
right.
It's a pretty complex process, and it's a good deal of investment doing and turning a radio station into the HD, because it's as simple as creating the space in maybe the rack for the new devices. You have to put a new exciter, and you have to put the multicast, and then maybe even another processor, because the processor that we have is not compatible with HD. So we're meeting all these infrastructure and technical difficulties. Not even mentioning the cost here and the investment, which is like really big for us, and then not seeing the people being able to listen to that HD quality. It's really depressing for us, because we're asking ourselves, like, why do we even do this?
That's been a question plenty of people have asked. Here in the U.S., a lot of new cars do come with HD receivers, but I don't know people that have HD receivers in their home. They may have some AM or FM radio, and probably an older one, but HD in home is not such a thing. But in the car, it's a thing, and competing with the satellite services like Sirius XM or even just streaming over the net. Say, I wanted to ask you a question, Cuau, about cooperation of engineers that work at competing broadcasters. So in the U.S., we've pretty long had a tradition where, generally speaking, engineers, even who work for different competing broadcasters, they'll probably cooperate with each other. If somebody needs a part, somebody needs something, I mean, not a whole antenna, right? Not a whole roll of coax, but if they need a part or something, they generally help each other out. Sometimes, behind the back of their owners or management. So I'm wondering, in Mexico City, is there some camaraderie among the engineers there, or are they very much, in a competitive situation?
Well, like in everything, we got all kinds of people, but for mostly, there's a couple of associations of engineers. The first one is the AMITRA, and the engineers are in touch. And sometimes, we have in a city, for example, let's say Durango, which is in the northern. It's starting to be north of Mexico, like 8 hours driving from Mexico City, all the way in the north. You get there, and you have the engineer, and the engineer provides its service to 2 or 3 competing groups. So it's the same engineer there, and he knows really. He's a close friends with the other engineer, and so the thing you said with the parts that you need some, and that camera of course exists. And then also the organism that we have, that would be the NAB for us, which is called the TWiRT. All the engineers assist to those forums, and the one I told you, the AMITRA. So they all probably, I think, all the engineers in the media know each other, and they are friends, and they help each other out. So it's pretty. I'd say we've always referred to, and like my grandpa and the older managers and the older owners have always referred to radio as a very familiar business. Like everybody knows each other, and so it's a tight group, it's a close group, and then it's a healthy competition.
So one of the challenges in the U.S. here, and I'm not a big sports fan or even a sports radio fan myself, but there are millions of people who are, and it's been a bit of a dry season here because we haven't had professional or college sports going on at all. And so what do sports stations talk about? What's been the sports activity, if any, in Mexico, and what are the sports radio stations doing about not having much to cover?
Well, first of all, in Mexico City, here in Mexico, we're not a sports culture. In Mexico, we have soccer, and that's it. I don't think there's another profitable sport in Mexico as a country. Okay. Only soccer, and it's been shut off. So there's no sports. There's no sports. Meantime, maybe the other sport that it's kind of big here in Mexico City, baseball, but it's been closed as well. So no sports in the meantime. That's been zero business there.
So let me see if I can understand something more about the remote operations. Now you do have, at least in Mexico City, you've got union employees that need to continue to be employed. So I guess what I'm getting at, typically, is your talent remote controlling any audio consoles, or do you still have a person at the studio who is still mixing the show, even if the talent is working from home?
For example, for the national morning show that I was telling you about, which is a pretty ambitious project, we are having a guy in the studio, which is operating that. We have to have one of them, and there's union workers all over the country. Like there's a specific amount of workers from the union you have to have in your radio station for every radio station there is. So it depends on the city or the chief administrator of that union district, but there has to be union workers in every radio station in the country.
Oh, okay. So when this COVID is over and people can start working together again, do you see any practices that you have in place now? Do you see any of those continuing? Like we're thinking maybe some radio stations will not rent as much office space or as much studio space, or maybe instead of having 5 studios in the building, they'll cut it down to 3 studios and have people doing more from home. Do you see that?
For sure, we're seeing that, and that's what actually we are starting to make preparations for, because you realize finally of a thing like this, that you are maybe occupying more than you need, and that you can narrow your costs or the rent, as you said, and not occupy, and you realize that you are throwing away resources that might help you in other things.
Sure. Or you're discovering your employees can pay for their own office at home.
You also discover, like, who's your MVP in a region, or who are really the talented people that are getting the job done, who were the ones that were expendable, or who were the people that were not even doing anything and were just there,
Yes, exactly.
We have all there's so many stations that you have all these different case scenarios, and all of them it's different. So we're actually starting to work on that thing that we're going to, after this, and as the Mexican government is calling it, after the new reality begins, because we're living in a new reality right now. There's definitely going to be some changes, some changes that are for I think for the best, and because of situations like these, you realize what can you do better, and what we're not doing before, that it's helping you right now to survive.
Yeah, it will be a good time for evaluating these things. The company I work for, Telos, we've always been a very spread out company. Probably half or 2/3 of the employees work in Cleveland, Ohio. Everybody else is spread out around the world. We have a couple offices, and then a lot of people work from home. So this has not really been a big change for us. Not going to NAB was a disappointment, and some of the other shows that we go.
I was sad myself as well.
Yeah. Wow.
The
Hey, I
NAB
want to circle
shows.
back. I want to circle back and ask you about streaming just a bit more because you've talked about video streaming, and I was wondering, do you do both audio only streaming plus video and audio streaming?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, audio streaming is one thing that we've had since I think for over 10 years now. We've had all our radio frequencies streaming in the web, and we got mobile applications, and so we got the audio streaming. It's been covered for a lot of time now, and then the video streaming. We've been doing that for, let's say, 5 years maybe. When the brand, the AdFM brand that I run started, which was almost 5 years ago, and which is when I started like working on a full time. We started doing this using these new technologies, using video from studio, video streaming, because the target of the brand is a way younger audience. You know, our target is 10, 15 years old to 30, 40 years old. It's a top 40 radio, so you know we're right on target there, and all these young audience like to see things. You know, I don't even go to I go to into Facebook just to watch, you know, videos. You know, and we grew up with the YouTube, so we love watching video streams. With there's a lot, you know, there's all these kind of YouTubers and streamers, and it's kind of the thing right now. So doing the video streaming with our programs, with our national programs, and them being in studio, and people being able to see their faces and see the studio, and you know, you get sometimes in some angles we have cameras pointing out to the microphones or to the consoles. You know, it appeals to be attractive to the audience, and they really connect that when they can put a face to the voice they are hearing, and they start to get familiar with the broadcasters, and it's been something we've been exploiting, and we've been trying to get all our studios with some video cameras to do the video streaming. And the thing there, well, as I was saying, you the obstacle there, it would be the infrastructure for that the people has the reach to, and has available to see you. No, that becomes now the new challenge. But I mean, now every cell phone has a good camera, every laptop has a good camera, and good resolution, and every time there's more platforms in order to be able to download these video streams. So it's a thing that we've been working on as well.
I'm curious, what video streaming or in-studio production platform are you using? I know that Avra is a popular one.
Yeah.
What are you using there?
Well, we tried with Avra. We used Avra for a couple of years, but then we turned to the vMix, which is the one we're using right now, I think.
Oh yeah, you're using vMix. Okay, yeah. So are we right now?
We used one of the pro versions of one of the paid versions of vMix to do the whole production, and also there's one that we use that it's called OBS, and that's mainly the two of the softwares that we are using right now. I mean, yeah, Avra was really, 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 really good, but it had a lot of. It was way much more than we require, that our operators are trained or are capable of using. You know, so I think there we were not taking full advantage of the Abra system, and
Sure, gotcha.
so we just changed to some way much simpler. But yeah,
Understood.
Abra, we worked with Abra for like 3-4 years, and it was
So we are.
good to get our mobile app running there. It was really good compatible with the video streaming, but the vMix is working just fine for us right now.
Good to know. Good to know. Hey, we're talking with Cuauhtémoc Pereda. He is he's with @FM and Results Radio Results. I don't know it in Spanish. I'm sure he'll tell me before we go again. You're watching This Week in Radio Tech, our 498th episode. Hey, I want to tell you before we get to our final segment. And by the way, Cuau, in our final segment, and I'm sorry, this is a surprise. We ask if you have a tip for our listeners, something that you've learned, something that you use, something that's useful, something that our listeners can walk away with and maybe even try for themselves, or keep in their pocket, so to speak, to put to use something that you found out, maybe something you found out during this COVID thing that other people should know. Hey, right now I want to tell you about my friends at this place right here. It's Max Connect Wireless, and during all this COVID stuff, if you've got maybe some employees, some remote people who have to put up with a DSL circuit and it's unreliable or it's slow, or maybe they've got even cable at their home, and guess what? It doesn't work during the evening shift well enough because everybody's watching Netflix. That's a real possibility. This thing works great. This is the Max Connect Wireless. It's a 4G LTE modem, but of course it's that. That's not the point. The point is the service. The service that you get is from Max Connect Wireless. They are a data provider. And so what happens is you put the SIM card in here from, it's for either AT&T or Verizon or T-Mobile, but you get it from Max Connect Wireless, and they've got a deal. They've got to deal with these wireless carriers, and that is that you get priority. Your data gets priority over everybody else except for first responders and emergency people. That means you can have a whole stadium. Well, okay, right now you wouldn't have a whole stadium worth, but you can have plenty of other people using a cell site and have that thing just about saturated. Your data goes first. You get your own channel, your own set-aside data channel that everybody else doesn't get. They're all sharing data. You get your own guaranteed data. It's almost like having MPLS, right, for your wireless data. And so this works at transmitter sites. It works when you're doing remote broadcasts. It works from home. We've used this at a convention center in Las Vegas during last year's SBE national meeting. And hey, I had a T-Mobile hotspot going on, and the data speed looked great, but it kept dropping packets, and we couldn't get the video through. We fired this baby up, and it worked great. The other thing you get with Max Connect is you get a fixed IP address at your remote end. And if you're sending data to your transmitter site, you're sending audio data, maybe a codec or something, that fixed IP address is pretty important. A lot of systems won't work without it. So a fixed IP address, because your phone, your smartphone, you don't know what the IP address is going to be. So you can't reliably push data through to a codec or something there. But you can with this Max Connect Wireless. That's from Josh Bone, and check it out. I'll have the link in the show notes, but it's spelled funny. MAXXK Connect, maxconnectwireless.com. Check that. There's the site right there, maxconnectwireless.com. Single carrier prioritized high-speed internet service from Max Connect. All right, it's Kirk Harnack, and I'm here with Cuauhtémoc Pereda. He's from Mexico City, and he oversees a ton of engineers and radio stations all across Mexico. They're using audio over IP. Thanks for using Axia consoles and routing systems. I really appreciate that. And Telos hybrids, that's great. But I'm going to put you on the spot here, Cuau, and see if you have a tip for engineers who are watching around the world.
Well, I mean, I think the tip I can give is continuity in overseeing the operations, and in order to really assure that the contents are getting in time, getting in order. It's be there. And why I mention this, because me, for being far away from many of the stations, sometimes people in the other cities, or the ones that are working on the sites where the radio stations at, kind of, or tend to think that because the boss is not there watching, or the owners are not there, they can do whatever they want, or to kind of slacking, in order to be compliant, and to be uh, fully working, fully capacity. You have to be always be present, always be monitoring, always listening to your stations. I mean, I know I'm saying it like if it was something easy, and more if you have like 20 plus stations or something. But have your team, have your people be listening to the broadcasting, to the signal. And when there are mistakes, when the wrong music is going on, or the wrong content, it immediately comes up when you on the first 10 minutes or the first hour you are listening to your station. So, and also when you are having maybe a modeling problem, or some problem with the audio processing, you can get that right away when you sit down and listen to a station for a little time, and always uh, be overseeing, and be on top of the people, telling them what is exactly what you want, and what is exactly what you want to hear, and how you want to hear it. That would be the advice. Continuity.
What I hear you saying is good advice, whether you're an engineer or a programmer or operations manager of a broadcast station. Be involved, be passionate, and pay attention to what's going on. Don't just throw your programming over the wall, or as we say, mail it in and let it go. It's important that the execution is good. Of course, you work hard on making sure the program is what it should be, but make sure it executes well. And then, if there is an audio problem, talk to your engineer about that and find out, hey, dude, where's this problem? How can we get this solved? How can we make sure that we sound good all the time, not just sometimes, or maybe bad some of the time? So be passionate about it. Put out the good product that you know you're capable of. That'd be a good way to summarize.
Exactly, right. Actually, that's the passion, liking what you're doing, and not just like sending the information. Because one thing that happens with all this technology and all this mobile thing and going around is that a lot of people tend to, or just I already sent the content, but you have to make sure the content is sounding properly, or that it's getting in the right place, or that it's going at the right time. It's not just creating the content or sending the content, but overseeing that the content goes through as you planned. That would be it.
Awesome. Good advice. I love that. Be passionate about what we're doing, no matter what your position is. I actually have a little tip of the week here, because I get this. We all kind of pay attention to Radio World. That's a terrific resource. So much good stuff online. I got to mention Radio Guide. If you're not getting this, you really should. They're online at radio-guide.com. And this issue in particular, I mean, it's just a real winning issue. I mentioned Innovonics as one of our sponsors, but there's a whole history of Innovonics here, along with an interview with Jim Wood. And in fact, here's the picture of that first processor I ever bought, the MAP 2 audio processor. And anyways, just a lot of terrific technical advice. In fact, sometimes I peruse both Radio World and Radio Guide to see, hey, who should we have on our show next to talk about something a bit, maybe even a bit more in depth than you can in an article. Oh, look, there's a really sexy audio console from my employer right there. Yeah, that's the Quasar. Hey, you should get some of these, Qual. You should put one of these in each of your stations. Woohoo!
Oh my God, I would love to get some of those, or the other one. What's the harmonics ones? I think it's the harmonics, the high quality you got there. But I mean, it's tough, I wish we could get them all for all the. First of all, there's a lot of radio stations, and then there's sometimes people don't take as well care of the equipment as I would. So it's or the other thing, and get the full advantage of the equipment. You're only going to have a union guy sitting there not doing anything because everything is programmed. What's the point of having a great console like that? So I would love to, but I mean, they're beautiful products, but when we can afford it, maybe we can.
I know. And hey, at my radio stations, I've got Axia consoles, but I got the cheapest ones, right? The Radius and the IQs, things like that.
Yeah, the IQs and the
elements. Yeah. Hey, Qual, we've got to go, but that's my tip. Radio-guide.com. This particular issue is just chock full of good stuff. Hey, we got to go. Qual Pereda has been our guest. He's in Mexico City. Qual, thank you so much for joining us. I really do appreciate your being here. Thank you. And we get
whenever
there we
go. I'll be here in Mexico City.
Awesome. Hey, I want to give a big thanks to our producer, and that is Suncast. Suncast, thanks for putting another great show together for us, getting all the switching right, and it's just been good, and you just handle all these problems, these little technical snafus that come up. Andrew Zarian, thank you for being the founder of the GFQ Network. You'll find other great podcasts on the GFQ Network at gfqnetwork.com. Check them all out. Some of them you're going to like. Some of them you go, I don't want to watch that. It's a smorgasbord. Pick whatever you like. Hey, Chris Tobin should be back next week, and we're going to have an interesting conversation with Brian Jones, and he's been helping broadcasters get set up to broadcast from home. So he'll have some good ideas about that. And then in 2 weeks, it's our 500th episode. What will we do for that? I don't know. I mean, I really don't know. We're going to try to have a party for our 500th episode. We got to run. Thanks a lot again, Qual, and we'll see you next week on This Week in Radio Tech. Bye-bye.